The year 2024, it ends today, and I want to talk about that a little bit, but I was unsure how to begin a video like this. I don't know how to keep people's attention, so I'm going to take a page from the book of the best of them. 2024 was a real poopy. It's as if 2023 had the chutzpah to bend over and take a big shit on our chest and say, there you go. I hope 2025 will be less stinky. I mean, it's effective. I'll give them that. Now, this year has been a mixed bag for many people. It's been overall probably not the best year for humanity, just like the last few, but I'm going to put all of that to the side, just bury it down there because I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I want to talk instead about all the things of the past year that I personally loved, ranging from games and movies to books and whiskies, all the things that made me smile in the year of our Lord 2024. The caveat to this is that some of them didn't actually release in 2024, they're just things I only got round to discovering or consuming this year, aside from the video games which all released in 2024 because I have no life and play every game that comes out. The video game market in 2024 has been a little bit dry. It's had some absolute bangers, but not many and not consistently, but one that I really enjoyed was the Silent Hill 2 remake. What the fuck? That is definitely new. I loved this remake and I was so skeptical when I heard it was being made by Blooper, but they knocked it out of the park, especially considering they've never done anything with combat, and the combat in that game was fantastic. Come back here, you little rat. Get him! Beat him up! Beat him up! It was, in my opinion, exactly what you should do with the remake. Take everything that was good and improve on the things that weren't so much, like the combat or the bosses, almost all of which had their boss fights totally remade with entirely new sections that added so much to the game and the monsters that they represent. I cannot overstate how big an improvement every boss fight has been so far. I even found it atmospheric and unnerving while recording gameplay for this channel. Do you know how hard it is to be unnerved while you're recording content? The whole time you're focused on whether or not your last joke landed, or you're gonna have to edit that entire chunk out, and yet I still found myself creeped out. That is impressive. Oh my god, the sound effect here is fucking phenomenal. I mean, it's awful, but it's phenomenal. Not to mention the nice loot box they sent my way, which is the first company to ever do that, so they in my good books. Up next is Mouthwashing. This is a totally independent game, and it was an absolute blast to play through for all the wrong reasons because it is horrific. This game has very like Silent Hill 4 The Room vibes. I feel like their visual aesthetic is very similar. Again, I played this on the channel, and honestly, I probably didn't do it anywhere near as much justice as the story deserves. It wasn't until I was editing it that I saw so many horrific details that I had missed while playing through. So many themes so elegantly laid out and hinted at and revealed throughout the course of the game. Oh no. Oh, you get to move it. In Mouthwashing, you play as the crew of a marooned ship as it floats in space, and you have to handle this disaster as things unravel. They get to the hull of the ship only to discover that they're shipping mouthwash across space, so almost all of them are at risk of dying for this shitty product that, yes, kills 99.9% germs, but it's definitely not worth dying over. Mouthwash? Unfucking believable. There are themes in there about self-doubt, self-worth, harassment, assault. It is so good, and if you like a surreal video game experience, I recommend picking this up. It is fantastic. Hey friend, I'm sorry we bullied you into crashing the ship. My next favorite game of 2024 is Space Marines 2. Oh boy, what a good game. It's probably the most realistic depiction of Space Marines we have had in any video game ever. It is brutal, it's visceral, it's gory, it's action-packed, and it's good fun to play with a few friends, which is a bonus. It didn't have that much content to it. The story was short, the PvP was kind of shit, and the PvE, you know, they're going to expand on it. But I would rather have a very well crafted experience than one that just drags on, because I don't have enough time to play video games in my spare time as it is. So a nice short experience that does justice, is that too strong a word? That honors the source material is always welcome. And with Henry Cavill spearheading the 40k cinematic universe, it's a good time to be a Warhammer fan. There's a lot going on, and I'm really excited to see what they do in the future. I actually have a whole box of Space Marines that I want to paint as the Blood Ravens from Dawn of War. Maybe I'll turn that into a video. If you guys want to see that, let me know. Up next, Astrobot Game of the Year. I know this is a controversial one for having one Game of the Year. I don't give a fuck. I think it's so well deserved. It is such a fun game. Anyone that shits on it just hasn't played it or generally hates platformers because it is so much fun. It is so creative in the powers it uses and how you use them to progress through the levels. The characters, oh, it's so nostalgic going through all the old PlayStation games, seeing the PlayStation characters. It's probably the first game I've 100%ed in such a long time because it's so deserving of it. It's so much fun. Honestly, if you enjoy platformers, I don't even play too many platformers, but this game, especially with the PlayStation nostalgia, is fantastic. The end scene where all the old PlayStation products are flying through space, it almost brought a tear to me eye. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the Yakuza games. I feel like some of them are awfully bloated, even though I love the stories and the characters and the combat. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth suffers from that as well, particularly in the last quarter. You like return to the Hawaiian island and find everyone's just twice as strong, and you have to go through the grind of leveling up again just because the game says it wants the last act to last longer. But overall, what a fantastically fun game. Ichiban, the main character, he is such a quirky protagonist. You just want to squeeze his little bushy hair. There's the return of Kiryu, the badass protagonist of pretty much every other Yakuza game, and he co-protagonist this one. You get to reminisce through his illness about the previous games, and there's the will he survive, will he not survive his battle with cancer. There's the tactical turn-based, which mingles in some real-time fisticuffs when you're playing as Kiryu. And if you have like 200 hours to spare, there is so much content to tear into with this game. You get to build a whole fucking like island resort by destroying rubbish and fighting bad guys and placing buildings to get tourists in that you then have to take care of and give gifts to. There is so much to unpack with this game. The only downside, like I say, is that it's a bit bloated. There's an awful lot of content reuse, but those are all things that the developer normally does. So if you can get over that, then it is good fun. The final game that brought me so much joy in the year 2024, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. Controversial, I know, because it's a DLC, but it's a DLC that is the size and quality of the majority of full release games, so it's fine to talk about it here. And what a way to do a DLC, honestly. The bosses, the set pieces, even the way it cleverly reintroduces those, Skadura tree fragments? I can't remember the exact name, but it soft resets your leveling and scaling so that you can experience it at any point in the game and still have that growth without being overpowered or crushed. You will be crushed at first, but it's by design. You have to build yourself back up again. So even someone who has the world's most overpowered fighter can still feel like an asshole in this world and have to claw their way back to strength. It is so good, and I highly recommend it, 21.
This battle could not be more fitting for the birth of a new god and the coming of a lord.
Bonus mention to Metaphor ReFantazio. I haven't finished the game yet because, again, I don't have 200,000 hours spare to pump into it. I'm only in the first act. I haven't even killed the necromancer who's in the castle. I'm that early on. But from what I've played in the fleeting hours I've played, it seems really good fun. It's made by the guys that made Persona, and it's kind of an amalgamation of everything that they've done right and streamlined. So far, loving it. The characters are fun. The world is interesting. The personas, or what do they call them in that one? Gauntlets? What the fuck are they called? The heroes that you get to change into that give you your powers. You can change on the fly. It's really good tactical fun. Reminds me of like old school Final Fantasy.
If we don't hurry and find a way to get close to Luis, we're sunk.
I know a lot of people didn't like the transition from modern day Japan to like medieval fucking England, but it's still good fun. I just haven't finished it. And the same goes for Indiana Jones. Fantastic from what I've played. The graphical finesse of it is amazing. It's made by Machine Games, I'm pretty sure that's their name, the guys who made Wolfenstein, and they pretty much haven't missed in like the past decade. Let me just shove that back down there. They make good games, they make polished games, they make games with love that have impact and crunch, and the same is with this. I know, again, a lot of people it wasn't what they were expecting. They were expecting heavy combat like the Wolfenstein heritage, but it's slower, it's more explorative, it's more stealth based, and I had seen lots of gameplay and not been interested at all, and it wasn't until I actually got my hands on it that it clicked and I see, this is what people are talking about. It is beautifully made. It is just such an elegant, well-crafted, fun game. And again, like Metaphor, I want to play more of it. I just haven't had the time yet. I've only just got my PC set up, so I will be playing more of that, and I'll let you guys know one way or another whether or not it's worth your time.
Ihren peinlichen Versuch, Dominanz zu zeigen, zu unterstreichen.
Bonsoir and welcome to the future. The year is 2025. This video is supposed to come out like 3 days ago on New Year's Day. I missed that deadline. I decided to record a few sections down here to spruce up the video, to spice it up. Very, Drew Gooden, minus the talent. But when I went to edit it, all the audio was f***ed for some reason. I was working off one of these bad boys. I tried to fix it, spent hours working on it to repair the audio, but I just decided to scrap it, try again in the new year. But I want to talk to you about my favorite books of the year 2024. Definitely recommend people to read more, especially if you struggle to sleep at night, if you have like insomnia, or you find yourself staying awake for hours, struggling to nod off. Read fiction for half an hour before bed and you will be asleep like a wee babby who's just been tucked up like a bug in a rug. If you like science fiction, my first recommendation is right up your alley. It's The Forever War by Joe Haldeman. This book is massively influential for a lot of modern science fiction, particularly military-based science fiction. It is basically about a soldier who goes off to fight this alien race that they know nothing about, and they start off technically primitive. The soldiers outgun them massively with the firepower, but the alien race takes on this weaponry and it basically creates an arms race between this fictional space group. And because of the way time works, time dilation, by the time backup arrives, the technology has advanced thousands of years for what is only a couple of days for the soldiers on the ground. So it creates this endless dog race of every time backup arrives, they are so technologically advanced in comparison that whoever is currently in the war looks like a child, a baby race in comparison, because thousands of years have passed by the time the new equipment has arrived to them. Such an interesting concept, and obviously, as science fiction should do, it raises a lot of questions about, who benefits in war, which is usually the manufacturers, why people push for war, and at what stages war should end. Given the climate of the world in this day and age, I think it's extremely relevant. I think it's extremely impactful. It was written, I believe, by an ex-US military veteran who served in the Vietnam War. You might want to fact check that, but I'm almost certain. So he knows exactly firsthand the zero-sum game that war often is. Check it out. Up next is Abroad in Japan by Chris Broad, the YouTuber.
Obviously don't watch me, I'm too grumpy and I swear too much.
It documents his 10 years living in Japan whilst moving there to teach English, then the initial startup of a YouTube channel, all the way up to his current day shtick.
How prepared is the Tokyo government for the worst case scenario?
トップクラスの防災対策をしていると思います。
As someone who's going to visit Japan later this year for the first time, it's super interesting to see all the social faux pas, the cultural differences. But listen, with all the shit that YouTubers push, and this is something that Chris has been pushing big time on his channel as well, there's so much bollocks that gets made these days with YouTubers. They just push out product that they don't care about, rack in millions and move away. This is a content creator making something personal, making something enjoyable. And so if someone's going to do that, I think as a community, it should be rewarded, and that is reason enough alone to buy this book. His personality comes through so well in written format, and it's just funny seeing a person so out of his depth tear into a country that is so alien to anything in England. And not only that, but it's inspiring. As someone who is trying to grow their YouTube channel, it's inspiring to see someone else's struggle as they try to grow their channel while balancing other life responsibilities. It's something that any content creator or aspiring creator can empathize with, and he captures it in a very human way. So I'd recommend you pick it up. So many reasons to pick it up. Those are the ones I enjoyed it for. Up next is The Odyssey by Homer, the great Greek poem. Obviously, this one didn't come out in 2024. It came out many years ago. It follows Odysseus. That's actually where the term Odyssey comes from. It's from the name Odysseus as he journeys back from the Trojan War, and he's fallen out of grace with the gods, and they throw everything at him to try and fuck up his journey home. He's presumed dead. It's like 10 years. Is it a 10-year journey, I think? Trying to get back to his family, his son, his wife, and all the trials and tribulations he faces on the various little Greek islands on that journey home, being helped by one Greek goddess who still wants to help him get there because She thinks, hey, he's a nice lad. He has a cool name. Not only is it a super important book culturally and historically, considering how old it is super easy to read. I've read a few books like this, like Plato's Republic and other, old ballads and poems, and some of them can be really tough to tear into because the language used is just unpalatable to us pagans with our basic English, whereas this one is super easy to read. And that's not the only reason it's one of my favorite books of the year. The main reason I loved it so much is because I picked it up to read when I was on holiday this year in Corfu. Pina colada in one hand, Odyssey in the other, and you're sat on a Greek beach with the Greek waves crashing as you're hearing about the same thing occurring in the book. It was such a magical experience. It was a privileged experience for sure, but it was an amazing and beautiful way to consume this book, and one that'll stick with me for a very long time. So that is why it is on there. Oh, and it's a very nice version. Like, look at this, it's leather bound, bit of ASMR for you. And then the paper is like designed, I don't know if you can see that, to look old. It's almost like, what do they call it? Parapus paper? Moving on, this is my final favorite book of 2024, and it is Between Two Fires. Not to be mistaken for Zach Galifianakis' Between Two Ferns. This is a medieval horror, and it is probably one of the best horror books I've ever read. And I've read most of the big horror books. I've read Frankenstein, I've read Dracula, I've read Picture of Dorian Gray, all the books by, what's his name? The one who done the Necronomicon or whatever it's called. H.P. Lovecraft, oh my god, how did I forget that? I've read pretty much all of H.P. Lovecraft's work, and of all of them, this is probably one of the best I've read. It is so good at crafting horrific encounters, whether that's stone angels that creep from churches and break into people's houses at night to murder them, or medieval castles with evil dead banquets that disappear by daylight. The best way I could describe this book is that it is like a written version of Dark Souls. That is how I would describe it, and I think that's the best recommendation you can give for any book as far as I'm concerned. But basically it is about a disgraced runaway knight, a angel-blessed child, and an in-the-closet priest as they travel the French countryside as the apocalypse unravels around them, and they're trying to survive at first and then eventually maybe try to stop it from happening. I don't want to spoil it, but it is such good horror, and if you enjoy written horror, if you enjoy medieval, anything Dark Souls adjacent, read this. It is a very good read. My final favorite book of the year, the unofficial Studio Ghibli cookbook. And I know that this isn't a novel or a story or a biography, but it's so fun. It was a Christmas gift and I love it. It basically has all the meals you would find in any of the Studio Ghibli movies. It details how to cook them, a little bit about their importance in the movie, and you can cook it, you can chef it up, and then you can sit down and watch it. Like, look at this, Shio Ramen from Ponyo. Ponyo, hello. But those are my book recommendations. I've read a lot more than that this year, but none of them were quite as outstanding as this little selection here. So if you have any good book recommendations, anything similar to that, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you're reading anything now or anything you plan to read in the future. I love a good book recommendation. Let me know in the comments down below.
Movies and TV, and oh boy, if the games were in a bit of a drought, then the movies and TVs this year have been in a f***ing wasteland. Longlegs was a good horror, but it's kind of corny. I only mainly like it because it's Nicolas Cage being weird. Let me in. If I had to give a favorite movie of 2024, I would give it to the Furiosa movie, Mad Max. That was pure cinema. The action, the characters, it was fun, non-stop action from the beginning to the end. I feel like Thor, or what's his name? Chris Hemsworth character, he was a brilliant villain. He was so much fun, and you almost didn't want to see him die just because the chemistry between him and the protagonist is so palpable.
The pleasure flushed them clean out of my head.
They also have that guy who's basically like a Solid Snake with the bandana. Hideo Kojima was creaming his pants. He wants to scan his feet. It's a good movie. I would recommend it. Terrifier 3 was quite good as well if you're into extreme gore and horror. I wouldn't watch it again. I wouldn't recommend you watch it with your parents. Wouldn't recommend you watch it at Christian camp, but it's fun.
Who's this Santa? He's scaring my kid.
Yeah, he's scaring me too.
And my favorite TV show of the year, I would have to say Arcane Season 2.
You have the chance to rally the Undercity together.
Season 2 of Arcane was, again, pure cinema. It tells such a good story. The artwork on it is amazing. The character arcs are beautiful. If I had to criticize it, I'd say it does condense an awful lot into the one season. There are huge time gaps where quite interesting dynamics aren't explored. They're just at an end point. But I suppose it's better than having a bunch of bloat weighing it down. Jesus, I just Googled it. I totally forgot about the Fallout TV show. That was fantastic. I forgot that even came out this year. It feels like a lifetime ago, but that is how you adapt a game to the big screen or the Amazon small screen. I don't know what you call Amazon shows. It was fantastic. The characters, again, beautifully crafted. It done so much justice to not only the monsters and the world, but that quirky kind of bleak black comedy humor that Fallout is famous for.
Well, now that is a very small drop in a very, very large bucket of drugs.
The ghoul, the character who plays him as well, big fucking white smile, lovely fucking actor. He's been so many characters in so many movies. Sons of Anarchies, you remember him in that?
Didn't your daddy ever tell you never judge a book by its penis?
Ooh, Pepperidge Farm remembers. And Borderlands should take note. Going from one of the best game adaptations ever made to one of the worst. The Borderlands movie sucked ass, and I ain't here to linger on it. I'm just saying, Borderlands is how you don't do an adaptation of a game. Fallout is how you do an adaptation. Haha, doo-doo.
This is my favourite board game of the year. That's right, I like board games too. In fact, I like everything in life. So there are some people... Just realised my coffee's in shot. Sorry about that. Some people, they pick their niche of things to like and then they just refuse to like anything else. Like it's almost like a stubborn pride of only liking specific niches. But if you choose not to like them, and it's different if you just don't like them, but if you're choosing not to out of principle, you are rejecting so many pleasures life can offer, because if you don't enjoy the little things, there's nothing left to enjoy really. And Carcassonne is the favourite game of the year for me. Again, this is another Christmas gift from my lovely girlfriend. She had booked us flights and a holiday to Carcassonne for my birthday this year, and it's a lovely place. Not much to do there, arguably. None of them speak English. I asked for a croque-monsieur. You ever seen that? It's like a cheese toasty, a fucking French word, and I said, bonjour, un croque-monsieur s'il vous plaît. She was like, croque-monsieur? Croque-monsieur? I was like, yeah, croque-monsieur. She was like, It's a French fucking word. I'm not saying one bacon sarnie, please. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Carcassonne is the board game based on the castle where the game is set. Did that make any sense? And if you like strategy games, this game is so much fun. You have to build towns or roads or farms or monasteries, and you do that by placing tiles to build up this city, and you put people inside the city for extra points. But the catch is, someone else on their turn can finish that city if they have the right wall piece to seal it off, and they can steal all the points for the city you've been building. So it's a tactical town builder essentially, and you can play it in about 35 minutes. That's on average. Games can last longer or far shorter depending on how you want to play, and it can be played between 2 to 5 players. And this whole game can be boxed up into a bag like yay big. It just requires the tiles and the board, scoreboard. That is it. So it's super portable. You build those little squares up, and yeah, I don't know how to review a board game. I've not done that before. This is my first time talking about board games on the channel, so I don't know if I'm like just shitting in a well here. But if you like board games, if you like tactical board games and you like a game where you can screw your partner over, pick it up. Whiskey. That's right, long-time viewers of the channel will know that I enjoy a tipple every now and then, and this is my whiskey recommendation of the year 2024. Admittedly, I didn't drink much whiskey this year, at least not any new ones, and not that much, because I've been trying to be a healthier person. I've lost 3 stone this year. Thank you, I know, yes, here's before, here's after. You're welcome, that's a New Year's treat for you. Don't screenshot it. Hakushu whiskey is fantastic. It's a Japanese whiskey. The Japanese don't miss when it comes to whiskey, and if you're looking for an entry-level expensive whiskey, this would be my recommendation. And I know that that's a bit of an oxymoron, entry-level and expensive, but it is expensive. It's about 80 quid, so I don't know what that is in dollars, like what, 95, 100? But it's really light, it's not peaty, it's super crisp, and it's super smooth. So if you have money to splash and you want someone to get into whiskey, this would be the one I'd recommend wholeheartedly, because it is so easy to drink, dangerously easy to drink. It's single malt, and I'm just gonna have a tiny tipple, because it's like, I don't have a watch on. It's like 10 o'clock here. So just a tiny tipple, but on the notes it smells like whiskey, and on the taste, yep, I'm getting notes of Japan. I'm getting notes of Jin Sakai defending Japan against the Mongols. I'm getting hot springs. As far as whiskey goes, as I said, it is so crisp and clear, super florally, and basically no peat, which is an ideal whiskey for me, but it's still got a nice, strong, oaky taste. Now, there's a lot of things that go into making whiskey taste nice, lots of different variables, but one of the biggest ones is the nature around the distillery. That plays one of the biggest roles, and that means the wood used to cask it and the water used to distill it. That's why places like Scotland, Ireland, Japan, and certain regions of America are so effective at making whiskey, because they have the bountiful resource of the rolling hills and the thick forestry to make the wood and casket and the spring water running through. Japan has this in abundance. That's why Japanese whiskey is doing so well of late, because they have so much natural resource to distill this with. The hillsides where this whiskey is made, if you look at videos of it, it looks insanely beautiful, and it's no wonder that that translates so well into the whiskey. So check it out. Or don't, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily recommend anyone start drinking whiskey, but if you're going to, give me a sponsorship.
And that about sums up the year for me, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a wide range of things, but they're all things that impacted me positively throughout this year, and it's nice to look back on things that made you smile, because like I said earlier, if you don't enjoy the little things in life, you got nothing to enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this video, this little look or insight into what's been going on behind the scenes for me this past year, and I'd love to know the things that made you smile this year. And it can be anything. It can be a loved one, an act of generosity, books, movies, TV. Let me know what you liked, and hopefully I can make this a sort of yearly thing. This was pretty low budget. I only just got back from visiting family yesterday. New Year's is tomorrow, so I'm short on time, but hopefully if this is successful and you guys enjoyed it, I can make this an annual thing with a bit more production and a bit more oomph behind it. But like I say, let me know what your favorite thing is. Like the video if you had fun going through this, and subscribe if you're new. I don't even know why I'm saying that. If you're new to the channel and this is your first video, you haven't made it this far. Let's be honest. This is for the hardcore fans. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great new year. I hope you had a great Christmas, and I'll see you in 2025. Much love. Bye bye. Mwah.